Good morning and welcome back to our Pacific Morning Show. It's so great to have you guys back. Today we're talking about home ownership. So a lot of our, that's the New Zealand dream, the Pasifika New Zealand dream is to own a house. It's pretty much a flex when you go around saying, yeah, we own a home. We have our own home. We're not renting. And we've talked about this on the show before. Pasifika communities currently have the lowest home ownership rate, which probably shows through our participation in political elections and things like that. But we're going to be talking about how to get into your first home and also the importance of it and how important it is to be financially literate. Hi, Bear. Hi, Ryan.
Hi,
What is your guys' experience currently with Pasifika families trying to get into their first homes?
I think a few of our audience know that I currently own. We own our own home, and we've just, our family has just purchased, or my sister together with our current home has purchased our second home. Was it possible? Yes and no. I feel like there's just so many restrictions. There's just certain things in our Pasifika families that we just don't understand. And even now, after owning my own home for 16, 17 years, there's still terms and there's still conditions that I have no idea. It still puzzles me. And I just, is it possible? Yes and no. I actually cannot answer. And I think there's a lot more that we need to learn at an early stage before saying or before agreeing, it's possible. But when you do the work, yes, of course, 100.
From my perspective, only one person in my entire family owns their own home. So we really haven't had those conversations. So I do know it is possible. My best friend does own his home, but the conditions for him lined up perfectly. Like no bills to pay, stayed at home while working a full-time job, stuff like that.
Right.
So it's possible, but for me and for what my family kind of has, it's like, the dream's a bit far. The dream's a bit distant.
No, my experience is the same as Ryan. It's a huge dream for people who are working, and I know a lot of hard workers. They're working 40 to 60 hours. They're making an income between 60 and 80K in different industries, but it's the shame that they have to talk about finances. Like they're scared to go to a bank and like get declined from the financial whoever they're going to speak to, and then that kind of puts their spirit down, and then they go home and they're like, oh, nah, I don't make enough, or I'd be spending too much on food, or my car that I loaned has gotten me. So it's definitely a dream in the Pasifika community to own a home. It's something that we take pride in, but it's very hard for a lot of the people in our community. So we have a very special guest on our show this morning. His name is Simon Rolland, and he is the CEO of Aurora Capital and also a financial advisor. How are you, Simon?
Good morning, team. I'm well. Thank you so much for having me here. Very excited to talk about this. Helping people get into their first homes is a passion of mine. And I'm excited to help, the Pasifika community because you guys don't own homes and you need to learn how to buy homes. So that's why I'm here. I'm really looking forward to having a chat, and hopefully you guys and your listeners find today useful. So I'm here to talk and here to answer the hard questions, but hopefully we can give out a lot of information that people can take away and do something with it. So thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
That's super awesome. Thank you for coming onto the show. So first of all, just give us a bit of background on who you are, your experience, and things like that.
Yeah, okay. So my name's Simon. I grew up in Titirangi, which is in West Auckland. I was saying to you guys earlier that I went to Avondale College, and then I left school. I was lucky enough that I went on an exchange. I lived in Switzerland for a year, which is like the home of finance and the home of money, and I learned a lot while I was there. But then I actually came back to New Zealand, thought I'd go to university. Didn't like university, dropped out, and then got the first job I can, basically getting into being what was a financial advisor, and then I eventually became an investment advisor, and then I ended up starting my own businesses. So 7 or 8 years ago, I set up a company called Aurora Financial. We're a company that gives clients advice on insurance, KiwiSaver, and mortgages. So basically, we help Kiwis make smarter financial decisions. So we are now the fastest growing in New Zealand. We've been recognised recently as by Deloitte as being one of the fastest 50 growing companies in New Zealand.
Congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm actually now a 3-time winner, which is pretty good. But we're in Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch, and available obviously nationwide digitally now. We have digital advisors. So that's really cool. And then actually about 18 months ago, kind of as lockdown was happening, myself and a business partner, we set up our own KiwiSaver firm because we thought there was an opportunity in the market to help people with KiwiSaver, help them understand KiwiSaver, realize the magic of KiwiSaver. And so we set up Aurora Capital 18 months ago, and that's going really well. We're also just recently recognised as being the fastest growing KiwiSaver in New Zealand at the moment. So things are going good. But yeah, you should, listen to what I say, because last year I helped 25 of my staff buy their first homes. These are all people under the age of 30.
Wow.
They are not from wealthy families necessarily. They are just, people who are 2 to 5 years into their first, real job. Not their high school job or whatever it might be. And the reason we were able to help them is because, I see buying a home and home ownership, it's a game, right? And, like any game, if you know the rules, you can play it better.
Right.
And I will throw out this, who's the best rugby player of all time? It's Richie McCaw, right?
I'd have to disagree with that.
I knew that might not be.
We can have that on another podcast.
But Richie McCaw, right? And the reason why Richie McCaw is so damn good at rugby is because he knows the rules better than anyone, right? He just knows the rules. And so what I'm hoping to do today is to help you guys understand what these rules are, because it isn't passed down to you, right? It isn't something you learn at school. And like me, I bought my first home when I was 23, did it by myself on my own income, no help from my parents. But, what do you do when you want to buy a first home? Who do you go to? Who do you speak to?
Absolutely.
And so I went to my parents. I'll tell you the story just kind of set the scene, right? My mum is a university lecturer. My father is an IT lawyer. So I've got smart parents, right? And we own our own home. But, right, I said, hey, Dad, Mum, I want to buy a home. What do I do? My parents sort of looked at each other and went, well, we bought this home 20 years ago, or 25 years ago. We don't really know what to do. And I went, well, who do I talk to? So I went and talked to a real estate agent. And they sort of told me a little bit about this and a little about that. And I was like, okay. But then I was like, well, I need to get a mortgage. So what do? You go to the bank. And then the bank come around to your house and they basically say, oh, how much money do you earn? How much have you had? Blah, 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 blah. And all just went straight over my head. The next thing you do is you get told you got to go talk to a lawyer, right? And then the lawyer starts talking to you in a way you're like, I don't know what this is about. So I literally bought my first home completely blind. If you ask me, even to this day, Simon, what was your interest rate on your first home? No idea. Who was your lawyer that you used? Don't know. What bank? Well, I know what bank because I had to make all the payments, but it was a very steep learning curve. And I'll put my hand up. I was one of the only people who's lost money in housing in Auckland, right? Because what I didn't realize when I bought my first home is that you should have a builder's report done. Right? Not just your mate have a look at it. And so it turns out I had a roof problem, $100,000 to fix the roof.
Holy crap.
On a single income, I've already bought the most expensive house I could because the bank said this is how much you can have, go and get it. It was a $600,000 house, just to put it in context. This was a while ago. But it didn't go so well, right? So anyhow, I'm here today to help you guys understand the rules of buying your first home, understanding what I call the magic of KiwiSaver, because so I'm 34 years old now. I own 6 properties, including a commercial property. Most of my money is tied up in business though, but I still know how to buy and sell and, get property working for you. And, my friends, we're all 34 now that I went to high school with, 100% of them own homes now, and not one of them did it without KiwiSaver. Right? Now, yes, there is a little bit of some of them would have had the bank of mum and dad, but majority didn't. We went to Avondale, wasn't super wealthy school or anything like that, but all of them had kind of been working for 10 years in KiwiSaver for 10 years, and, between themselves and their partner, their KiwiSavers coming together has actually given them the option of making home ownership a real possibility.
Right.
So all of them call me and say, thinking about buying a house, what should I do? What should I look for? And it's a big process. So we can start at the top, go through your questions, and hopefully at the end of this, you're going, you know what? I actually can buy a house. It's not as hard as I thought. I just needed to understand the game so I can win.
Damn, Simon, you're giving us words of hope there. Because,
I
you know,
know.
what I was saying before, like, KiwiSaver is, we don't actually understand it to its full
Yeah.
extent.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you see it on your, when you get a new job, it's like, oh, I don't want them to take too much of my money. I'm going to put 3%.
Yeah.
We don't understand the different types of investment plans you can go into that. So it's really, really important. And the fact that you're sitting here saying your KiwiSaver is, you know, so important to get you into your first home.
Yeah.
It's kind of like bizarre to us.
I'd almost say it's
Yeah.
impossible without KiwiSaver.
Yeah.
So KiwiSaver will potentially be the biggest financial decision you ever make, and most people don't even know who the provider is. They've got no idea what strategy they're in, and they've just got no idea why the government set up KiwiSaver. So maybe I could answer that just to kind of give a bit of context of why
For sure.
KiwiSaver was
Yeah.
sort of started. So I mean, KiwiSaver at its core is it's a pension fund. Right, which means when you hopefully retire at 65 and you go, you know what, I've done enough. Hopefully, yeah.
Can I just add one thing before you go into the explanation? I saw some comments on Twitter, sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
And people were saying, if we're using our KiwiSaver for our homes, people from low socioeconomic areas, what about our retirement?
Yep.
If you could add that in as well.
Yeah. Well, I'll get to that. So just remind me if I go off track. But basically, KiwiSaver was designed because at the moment, right, when you turn 65, doesn't matter if you're wealthy or not, the government's going to give you a couple of $100 a week to make sure basically that you don't starve.
Yeah.
Right? But when you turn 65 and you say, hey, and I've had these phone calls because, as I said, I'm 34, but all my friends' parents now are 65. So I get the phone call, hey, Si, I've turned 65 and I'm thinking about retiring. What are my options? What are my investment options? Okay, well, the first thing I ask them is, do you own your own home? Right? Now, my parents' generation are so lucky that the prices of houses in Auckland have skyrocketed. Otherwise, they would be, and I was going to beat myself, screwed, right? They would be screwed without it. All their wealth, all their money is tied up in their house, right? But if you do not own your home and you're 65, what's rent for a house per week?
Like
680.
Yeah, $600 a week, right? So you still have to make $600 a week, right? Let alone food, let alone petrol, let alone everything else, all the other bills you got to pay. So you're never retiring, right? And that's a hard thing to say.
Yeah.
So I've had a friend's mum call me, 65, what do I do? Do you own a home? And unfortunately, her husband had passed away, 15 years ago, so they sold the house then. So she said, no, I don't own my own home. So she's renting. And I said, how much is your rent? And it was $650 a week, right? And I'm going, well, you're going to have to keep working to always pay those bills, right? And that's really sad.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, right, to retire, we want to make sure that you when I can call you at your 65th birthday and say, do you own a home? You say yes. So that's why the first part of KiwiSaver is designed to get you into your first home.
Right. Yep.
The second part of KiwiSaver is once we've got you into your home is to start investing, and hopefully we've got time. Hopefully we've got 20, or 30 years until you're 65 to build up enough to supplement the pension. But basically the government said, listen, we've got this aging population who are all going to want pensions, right? And this is a huge financial burden on the New Zealand taxpayer. So what KiwiSaver is designed to do is to move that financial burden from the government's back pocket to all of our back pockets, our individual back pockets, right? So the idea is that you'll have KiwiSaver income from that investment pool of money that you've saved over the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And you would have bought that house 17, 18, 19, 20 years ago, and your mortgage is basically gone.
Yeah.
Because if you imagine, if I said, hey, Hana, you're 65 now, congratulations, you have a $1 million freehold house, so it costs you nothing to live in there other than rates and insurance. You're getting $250 a week to cover that from the government. Oh, and you've got $800,000 in your KiwiSaver that's giving you a 5% cash return. I should have done my maths earlier, but I think that's like $40,000 a year, so about $1,000 a week. So you don't have to go to work. You can live in $1 million house and you're earning $1,000 a week to take care of, you don't have rent, you don't have mortgage to pay for, so $1,000 a week.
Spending money.
That's okay. Yeah, that's the live off, right? So I think you're going to have a pretty good retirement. And even better, when you pass away at 85, 90, 95, whatever the age is, well, then your kids have a freehold home. That's a pretty good start in life. And that, I know. Oh, man, my son's going to be he's so lucky. Yeah. But then also, out of that $800,000 you've KiwiSaver, you might still have $500,000 left. You might have $400,000 left, right? So that's another little passed down to the family. And that's how you create intergenerational wealth. And that's why European New Zealanders are further ahead, because my grandparents own their own home. So all my uncles and aunties own their own home. Funny enough, me and my brother, we own our own home, but I do have one brother who doesn't own his own home, right? And so I can understand how it is sometimes for certain people. But, you know, and even though they didn't pass that through, we still had that in our culture, was you save for your home, get your home, that's your security. And in New Zealand, that is your financial security, right? If you own your own home, no one's pushing you around, right? You're still renting and you got a family to feed, you got 4 kids. Guess what? Landlord says going up $100 a week or get out. Guess what?
Get out.
Get out, you know, and that sucks, right? So KiwiSaver is super important. Now, I love KiwiSaver because it comes out before you can touch it, right? It's just before you see whatever shows up in your bank account every payday, it's already put aside, right? But you need to know where that's being invested. You need to make sure it's in the right appropriate account, you know, or the strategy. And then you've got to also understand that, you know what, you might be putting in 3% of your income. That might not be enough, right? And it's better that you bump it up to 6% or 9%. So I was really lucky when I was about 25 years old. I worked for, Aurora. We pay 6% of our staff's salary, plus they put in at least 3%. So almost 9, almost 10% of their salary is going straight into a back pocket called KiwiSaver to save for their first home. But, you know, so that's one thing that you can talk about is upping the contribution rate. But again, it's got to make sure you can still afford milk, still afford petrol, still afford to pay rent, right? We don't want to go broke saving, but it's a good idea if you can make it go up a little bit, sure. And then it's understanding, okay, when am I ready to buy, right? And this is where we also come in handy. So not only does Aurora have a first home buyer's strategy, so it's a KiwiSaver fund to strategy designed to help you get into your first home. We then also have a really, really good team of what's called mortgage brokers. Now, a mortgage broker is what their whole job is to do is to make you look real good in front of a bank. And that's what they are designed, that's what a mortgage broker is there to do, right? And so we have a team of mortgage brokers across the country who are really, really good. Maybe one day I can bring in Drew, who's our mortgage broker, to come talk to you guys.
Sure.
He was on Sticky TV. He's a little bit
yes,
famous.
Yes, Shout out to Drew. I remember you. I was a child.
He's the best looking mortgage broker we have. So happy to bring him along for you guys. And then, you'll talk to a mortgage broker and their job is to say, present yourself a little bit differently because there's tricks, right? There's ways to make your income look better. There's ways to clean up your accounts. But, if I said today, I mean, you've just bought a house, right? So you would have had to provide, pay slips. You would have had to show 90 days worth of bank, statements. So there's little things like, by talking to us, we can say, hey, Hannah, we can see that you're paying Harvey Norman. When's that going to be paid off? We're not going to try and get you a home loan until that's paid off. Every time you put something on credit or, you finance something, how the bank sees you just pushes you further and further down the good looking. But what Polynesians do have in your favor is that you like to live together, right?
Yes.
You're happy to live together, right? With me, you couldn't pay me to live with my brothers, right? And the first thing we do when we're 17 is we move out of home, right? So there's no way I'd want to live with my family, well, my brothers or my parents, right? But if you're happy to, suddenly you go, well, actually, I've got maybe 3 or 4 or 5 or even 6 adults in the house with full-time jobs, earning 60 to 80K, like you said, right? And then suddenly you go, well, actually, I've got 20 grand in my KiwiSaver. You've got 20 grand in your KiwiSaver. You've got 20 grand in your KiwiSaver. You've got 20 grand in your KiwiSaver. And individually, you thought, 20 grand, that's nothing. But you didn't realize you've put that all together. That's $100,000, right? And then also, you might go, 60 grand, it's not a great income. But 60 times 4, that's $240,000, right? So suddenly you've got $100,000 to go towards your deposit. You've got a serviceability of $240,000, right? So suddenly things become very possible very quickly. Now, what we'd obviously like to do is to make sure that, you don't have bad credit, right, which is always going to be an issue. Things that you don't realize, like, a power bill that you you didn't pay when you moved out of that last home and you weren't, and you ignored those letters to pay it because you've gone on to the next house and, $200 here, $400 there. It's, that will come back to bite you in the bum, it's really, really, because it shows poor character, right? The bank's going to look at you and they don't see, your face. They don't see, hey, good rugby player, up and coming business person, great mother. They go, they look at the numbers, income, debt, and character.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the sort of person who misses bills. Do we really want to lend her $700,000 or $800,000?
Yeah.
Oh, this person can't live within their means, so has to borrow money to buy that new couch or buy that new TV or buy that new car, right? And, you can either look rich or be rich, right? You've got to kind of choose one or the other because, showing off to, it's true, right?
Yeah.
Especially young boys, we do that. We're young, we go out and we tick up a real nice car. But at the same time, that stops you buying a house.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's cooler, but I'd rather own a home.
Me too.
Than
for sure.
paying, a finance company $100 a week to look like I'm something I'm not.
Yeah.
So let's get into some questions. Let's sort of set the scene, right? Let's set the scene that we're going to work out how and what we need to know so we can get into the right KiwiSaver fund so that can help us build the deposit. And I mean, do you know what a deposit is? I think deposit we know. Okay, cool. I won't explain that. And then to understand how much of a deposit you need and how we can make your deposit bigger. And then how do we make you look good in front of a bank? And then we can also just talk about what sort of properties you should be looking to buy, right? Because the last thing I want to see is we go and get, a Polynesian, approved for $800,000, and then they walk down the road, they see the first house and they buy it. And they don't realise that the real estate agent didn't tell them, the council's just about to put a motorway through here or this is about to be rezoned to a different school. So when you thought you were going to the nicer school on that side of the road, turns out your kids are going to the not so nice school on that side. And there's things to look out for, right? There's things that make houses worth more money and there's things that make them worth less money. And unless someone tells you this, the last thing we want is you to get ripped off. So that's also an important piece of the puzzle. And then the last piece is actually understanding how do you negotiate buying a house, going to auction, or what does price by negotiation mean? And this is when, and I'm not anti real estate agents, but I'll put a real estate agent in their place because their job is to sell the house no matter what. And there's very little recourse.
Yeah.
You can't ring up the real estate agent and say, hey, that house you made me buy? And you said, oh, it's only going to go up in price and it's only going to be a good investment, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's gone down $100,000. It has a leaky roof. And by the way, it's going to cost me another $100,000 to fix the driveway. But you told me that not to worry about that. You told me, just imagine the kids running around the backyard. They sold you on the emotion. They sold you on the scarcity of the product, right? Yes, we understand
and
that.
That's a huge problem. It's hard for us to build trust, but once we do build trust, it kind of spreads throughout the community. And the fact that you guys have it all packaged within your company, like the mortgage brokers, the financial advisors, explaining what your bank statement should look like is really helpful because even the process of looking for a mortgage broker, then looking for a lawyer, then looking for this is stressful for Pacific families. And also, we're excited to get into our new home. So if we see a nice image online, bro, the whole family will be like, buy it. That's my room. And we haven't even seen the house. So we're going to trust the real estate agent who's going to say, this house is mean, but there's mold growing and we don't even see it and stuff. And that mold is what kills you. But it's not just Pasifika people. All Kiwis are not that good at buying houses. They're not that financially onto it. It's not don't think it's just you guys. It's everyone, right? Some people, yes, are very lucky. They come from a family who knows what they're doing. Most don't. So don't feel like it's just you guys. It actually is everyone. And that's why I'm here to help everyone, right? Because I know for me, it's just fun getting people into houses, right? And it makes me feel good. So should we ask you some questions we can get into?
Yeah, because Hannah's just touched a little bit on just that trust part. And I know I just briefly explained to you our situation when we first bought our homes. I was quite young. My sister and I just kind of exactly how Hannah explained it. While we were forced, great, no regrets. But it was the excitement of buying your first home. Didn't understand anything. All I knew was I was going to be a homeowner. At the, young age of 19 and 20, my sister and I were on top of the world. But we didn't, with that, it created trust issues from such a young age. We had issues with the people that helped us. It felt like it was a scam. They were taking lump sum from us. We didn't understand, the terms and and conditions. We don't understand the condition our home was. They didn't even give us a guideline of what to do. So now, yes, or we're past that dud stage.
Yeah.
And, but we've had the leaky roof.
Yeah.
We've found that there's a drainage on our property. Everything that we could have, that could have helped reduce our, the value of our house. These are the things that we didn't look at. Trust is the biggest thing. How do you identify a scam?
Yeah.
So that we don't keep running into the same issues. I mean, there are people that are set up like yourselves, but they're set up in such a way that they know how to tap into that vulnerable community and how to sell on emotions, like you said.
Yeah. That's a really good question. So, I mean, I've got to be careful what I say, but I don't want to offend anyone. But if someone is selling the house that they own, right, that's probably a conflict of interest. So if I'm selling you a house, but I've built the house and I've done all that, you probably, so if I'm, there's probably not that separation or independence, at least with a real estate agent, right, they don't own that house that they're selling. They're just selling on behalf of a client. But the question is, who do you trust, right? Because if you look at the sales sort of cycle, right, you've talked to an advisor about your KiwiSaver, you talk to a mortgage broker about getting approved, or your bank about being approved, right? But then you go on the other side, you've got the real estate agent who's in the middle. You've also got the solicitor, all right, which is another fancy word for lawyer. They're the ones who really should be protecting you. But no one's actually, like the mortgage broker, they're paid by the bank. So their job is to get you the lending. It's not necessarily to make sure the house is the best one for you. Now, obviously, our mortgage brokers do try and help, and that's what they, want to do. But that's not really their job. And then, the real estate agent doesn't work for you. They work for the person who's selling the house. So as much as they feel like they do work for you, they don't. So that's one thing that a lot of people need to realize, is that real estate agents aren't neutral. Okay, they work for the seller. They do not work for the buyer. Now, you will get some comments.
Bluwave Ngalumoana. We are focused on providing digital solutions for our Pacific people. With a creative team that incorporates Pasifika values and cultures, there are no limitations. We offer a variety of digital media solutions that cater to Pacific peoples. With over 10 years' experience in graphic design and photography, we take pride in creating art with a Pacific focus. We also specialize in filming, editing, and live streaming. A digital media company serving our Pasifika families, Pasifika businesses, and Pasifika communities. Bluwave Ngalumoana. Live and breathe Pacific.
Get some comments going, oh, but I'm a buyer's agent. I work for so-and-so agency and I help my clients. All right. One person. Yeah, calm down. But they're really only doing that to get the listing, right? And then, solicitor. Your solicitor's job is to make sure the contract's correct and that you understand the mortgage, you understand the property, you understand all that. But unless they're a very property-focused lawyer, they're not going to be really there to hold your hand. So there is a bit of gap that, who holds my hand the whole way through?
Yeah.
And in New Zealand, that is traditionally more a mortgage broker who does that. So a really good mortgage broker will coach you through that sort of stuff. A very, very good real estate agent might be able. And then you do get these people who are property coaches, property consultants and stuff like that. But, for me, I think just a good financial advisor and a good mortgage broker and then an independent lawyer should be enough. But, it is you learn as you go experience. You'll find that your first home, you make all the mistakes, and hopefully your second home slightly less.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good to have someone like myself that you can just call and say, hey, the real estate agents come back. They've said we've got 10 days for finance, 10 days for limb. What does that mean? Or we're making an offer of $900,000. How much of a deposit do I have to put down?
Yeah.
You probably don't realize that, real estate agents will push for a deposit. That's because that's where their commission comes out from, right? You don't actually have to put down, if the seller agrees to a lower deposit, right? You can get away with a lower deposit when entering a negotiation on a contract. But the real estate agent, they want to make sure there's enough there to cover their commissions because they can take it out from the deposit once the house goes what's called unconditional. What's a conditional offer? What's an unconditional offer? I didn't know any of this stuff. Like when I was first buying houses, I was just making every mistake, but trying to learn. So you've got to know who to talk to and what, and how to just take all advice with a bit of grain of salt, as they say. So first step is, how do we get you looking good in front of a bank? Well, banks want to see a few things. So here's a couple of rules of thumb. You can borrow roughly 5 to 6 times your annual salary. Okay, so if you make, just to make the numbers easy, $100,000 a year, you'll be able to borrow around $500,000. Okay. So if you earn 60 and your partner earns 60, okay, well that's 120 times 5, whatever that equals, probably about 600,000. Okay, so you can expect to have a mortgage of plus minus $600,000. You then have what's called your deposit, which will go on top. Now, banks, the bigger your deposit, the more likely it is that they'll say yes to your home loan, to your mortgage, right? And that's because if the house price falls by 10%, but you've put a 20% deposit in, the bank's money's safe, right? They know that you could sell the house, you'll lose your 10, but there's still 10% fat in the deal before they start losing any of their money, right? Because remember, the banks aren't your friends. That's the first thing to remember. They're not. And banks are there to make money, first and foremost, right? And you'll see in the news lately, the banks are making all this profit, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they're designed to do. Don't hate them because of it. Again, learn how to work the game. Yeah, exactly. So if I go and buy a house and I'm only putting in a 5% deposit, which you can do in certain situations on the right day, but don't count on it. If the house prices fall by 5%, guess what? The bank's going, oh crap, you stop paying the mortgage, we could lose money here. Not going to do that, right? But for first home buyers, 10% is a good sort of first place to get to. But the closer to 20%, the easier it becomes. Okay, so if you want to buy a $800,000 house, 10% is $80,000, right? So you need to get $80,000 together before we'll even really start to look at, getting you what's called pre-approved, which is like someone saying, yes, you can buy a mortgage and here's the amount you can go up to, right? But if you can get 100,000, 120,000, 140,000, which sounds like a big number, it's just going to make it easier and easier and easier for that mortgage broker to get you a pre-approval. So you come to the mortgage broker, they're going to fill out an application form. This is where you have to show them, hey, here's how much I earn. Now, if you are an employee, i.e., your taxes come out before you're paid, so not self-employed, it's a lot easier. If you're self-employed, the bank go, that's risky. What happens if you don't get any more work next week? We're left with a house that we might not want to own. Okay? So it is much easier if you have full-time employment and a good history of full-time employment. Someone who's just started on a 90 grand, salary, isn't maybe look as good as someone who's on an 80 grand salary, but who's been at the same workplace for 5, 6, 7, 8, good history of employment. Okay? But if someone's just gone out and started their own business, it's real hard to buy a home, okay? And that's something you might want to consider. So if your goal is buying a home, don't go start that business, right? Buy the home.
For real? So what's your advice then to business owners who want to get into homeownership? Like, what if you made a really good sale and you got like 160K profit and you went to the bank and you were like, but your sales were like fluctuating going through the first 5 years, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you go to the bank, you're like, I got 160K cash today.
Cash,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, the more cash, the better. But they'll look at your history. They'll say, show us your last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And if that shows, hey, you made good money the last 2 or 3 years, then yes, we will get you into a home, no problem.
Yeah.
But if you've only been self-employed for 6 months, and like most
Right,
self-employed
right.
people, the business isn't making any money yet, or like you haven't proven that you've made any money, then it is tricky. You're a high risk person because the
True.
bank's just looking to give the loan to the lowest risk person they can.
Yeah.
So definitely, if you're about to buy a home or you're thinking I'm about to start my own business, get the home first. It is so much easier if you're an employee with a good, employment. That's step one.
Yeah.
The second thing that the bank will look at is what's your character. Okay, so you have to show them your bank statements.
Yeah.
Right?
And they probably have like profiles of like personalities of different people.
Absolutely. If they see Uber Eats, finance companies, stuff like that. Afterpay. Yeah, all that stuff, right? But that's the thing. This is like home ownership's easy, but it has to be a priority, right?
Right.
And so like sometimes I'd meet clients like back in the day and I'd say, oh, what are your financial goals? Oh, we want to buy a house. And I go, great. How much deposit do you have saved? Oh, nothing. Don't lie to me then. You don't want to buy a house. Yeah, you're telling me you want to buy a house, but you don't want to buy a house.
Yeah.
If you want to buy a house, when I say, oh, how much have you got saved? You say, oh, I've got $45,000 in my KiwiSaver. We've got $10,000 in cash. We haven't bought anything, silly or on credit cards or on hire purchase or afterpays, for the last year. We have no dumb debt, which is consumer debt. So that is things like Harvey Norman or instant finance and all that kind of stuff, right? Oh, okay, you actually want to buy a house. That's what you're telling me,
Yeah.
right? And that's how the bank will look at it. Do you actually want to own a home? Because everyone will tell you they want to own a home, right?
But then when it comes to proving it, it's,
prove it. You want to buy? How much money you got saved?
Yeah.
It's how I always cut through clients who are a waste of time.
I feel attacked.
But,
I'm kidding.
But maybe that's the feeling you need to go, actually,
Exactly.
Actually, maybe I'm lying to myself. It's cool to talk about buying a house, but you know what's cooler? Buying a house.
And owning one.
Owning it is better than talking about it.
And I wanted to peel this right back. Like you've explained to us the entire process of KiwiSaver, why it's important and how it's possible to own a home, especially looking at this from a Pasifika lens, how we all stay in one home or we're comfortable living together.
Yeah.
But let's peel this right back, putting on your financial advisor hat. How important is it as an independent member of society to be actively learning about investment, about home ownership and finances?
Oh, it's so important. Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, that's your security, right?
Yeah.
Understanding, hey, you always got a home if you own it, right? You're never going to be pushed out. You're never going to be, in a sticky situation. And obviously being smart with your money has benefits, right? If your kid is sick, you've got more money to fix them. If your kid gets into trouble with the law, you got more money for a better lawyer, right? Like there is, we talked about mold in the houses, right? If you've got money, you can either move to a better house or get in a ventilation system and a heat pump and all that sort of stuff. So, and hey, do you go to the butcher to buy the nice meat or do you go to wherever and buy the off-cut seconds that's no good for your family's health? Are you buying the better fruits and vegetables or are you skipping the fruits and vegetables this week because, it's cheaper to buy the frozen chips or something, and that's what the kids want, but it's not necessarily what's good for them. So there's definitely a benefit to being, smarter with your finances. And what people don't realize is, I've got friends who make 200 grand a year and are really bad with their money and have basically nothing to show for it. I have other friends who make 60, 70, 80K a year and they're already in a home and they're already thinking about the next home because they're a lot smarter with their money, right? So, and I'm lucky. I was just born, good with money. Even since I was in high school, I was always saving money. For me, saving money is like a real, I get a lot of thrill out of saving money. I don't like spending money unless it's on something that's important. And you've got to think about the future. Like what do you want your future to look like? Do you want to have your own home? If so, all right, it's going to take work. It's going to take discipline, but you've got to know what you're doing so we can make it happen. But then also look past your first home. Like obviously you've bought your second home, which is great.
My sister,
Yeah, well, you and your sister, it's still part of, it's still you as a family unit. That's really cool. But then what does your retirement look like, right? Do you want to work till you die or you'd like to actually have a few years at the end where you can have some options, do some traveling? If you're into giving back, volunteering your time because you can. You don't have to be, working 40, 50 hours a week just to pay bills, right?
Yeah.
I think the mindset as well for our Pasifika people, and it comes back to you don't take anything when you're gone, right? And I think that a lot of that, and I'm going to be quite honest, and that was my mindset, and that's how I was kind of like, give. You need to give with your heart, because if you don't give, what does all this mean when you could die tomorrow and you're not going to enjoy it? And that was kind of like the mindset. My mindset quickly changed when I had children, and although I own my own home, and yes, congratulations to my sister, who has used our first home to purchase our second home, or her second home, but I'm still drowning in a lot of debt because I haven't been quite clever with my money. Probably a few months ago, I've changed my mindset. I want to be smarter with my money. I said to Ryan the other day, I'm looking at my account, and it's such a good feeling to finally see a big bulk of money. I'm like, yeah, I saved that.
Yeah.
But how you probably don't have the answer, but is there a way to kind of change that mindset for our Pasifika people? Do you think?
Okay,
any advice?
Yeah, no, and it's not easy, right? And so what I did, and I still do it to this day, is I set up lots of bank accounts, like lots of suffixes, right? So you normally have your OO account, which is your income account, and that's where your like pay goes into. Yep. I'd have like 5 suffixes. One says car, one says travel, one says house, one says future assets or whatever. Yep. And every single week when I get paid, I shovel as much money out of my OO account into those things, right? And then I live off whatever's left on in the OO account. I don't do it the other way around. I don't spend everything for the week, and if there's anything left over, then shovel it in. So every time I get paid, it's just money would go into this account. I also only give myself a small budget, right? I've recently had to give myself a pay rise, but for years and years, I lived off $150 a week, not including rent and stuff. Okay. So not including rent, but just $150 for lunches, coffees. I could save up within that $150 for clothing, but I could spend that money on anything I wanted, right? So it was guilt-free spending, but it was only $150 a week. So it meant that everything else was either a bill for living, which in my case was a mortgage, or it's put into a saving.
That's a lot of discipline, man. That's like a new pair of like Jordan shoes.
Every week.
Or a new game.
Yeah. But do you want to live in those shoes and live in that game? Or you want to live in a house,
exactly.
That's you've just said it. Do you want to live in those shoes?
And you know how shoes is like a big thing, eh? Like, like even my family, like,
I think honestly, that's what you've just said it. Do you want to live in those shoes?
Yeah.
Do you want to live in that car?
Yeah.
Do you want to live in that deep fryer?
Yeah, exactly.
Air fryer.
Yeah.
Deep fryer. Oh yeah,
air fryer.
Yeah.
You're right. That's all it is.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Like $150 a week. If you make 60, 80K, you've got more than that coming in after bills.
Yes.
Yeah. So it is about being disciplined, but having a reason. So, and in this case, I think you should have an account that says home deposit. Yeah. And every single week you get paid, you just shovel as much money into that as you can, and you just don't touch it. If you really have to, set it up at a different bank that you don't have internet banking for, right? And you have to go into the bank to get money out of it.
Yeah.
Don't touch it, right? Yeah. So that's a really good option as well. And then just, like I'd always pay myself less than I get paid, right? Because so I was quite lucky when I started work. I started to earn good money quite quickly, but I'd still just pay myself like I made 60 grand a year. I might have been making 180 grand a year, but if I started thinking like I had 100 grand, guess what? I have nothing, right? If I started spending like I make 180 grand a year, it's like, whoa, I might look rich on social media, but I'll be broke, right? Yeah. And for me, like my mentality has always been have it, don't show it, right? Because if you start flashing it, guess what?
More problems come.
Hey, bro, my car broke down. Oh, hey, auntie died. Hey, and you will lose friends because of it, right? If you start to show money, but that's not to say that it's not a good idea. Like you should focus on getting a good income, right? And like it's way easier to buy a house and make money and have a good life if you make 150 grand a year than it is on 50. Right? That's just a fact. But, you've got to be super disciplined if you're in those lower incomes. But even in the higher incomes, like you can make a bit more mistakes, but you still need to be fairly disciplined to make it happen. But again, if you're thinking about like which career you're going to get into something that you one day will get up to a good income, especially like all this generation, right? You all went to school in New Zealand. You all went to the same high school as I went to. So there's no excuse for you not getting a good job, right? You've just got to make it a priority. So a good job is definitely a good start. It's much easier. But then it's that discipline and savings. Because again, if a bank sees that you've been able to put 20 grand aside this year and you've got $25,000 in your KiwiSaver and your sister's done the same, they're going to give you a house, right? And if you've got 20 grand saved in cash and you go, oops, I went into Harvey Norman and, bought that new lounge suite, hey, you'll be pissed because you'll have to move $3,000 out of your hard-earned savings to pay back that dumb Harvey Norman loan they gave you because you don't want that, making you look bad in front of the banks, right? And charging you interest and fees and all that crap. So just don't ever take finance. If you can't afford that TV, don't buy it. Like, just don't buy it. Go to your friend's house who has a nice TV. So, like, in my circles of friends, right?
Facebook Marketplace sells TVs for $150. Just letting you know.
Get rid of, well, either buy that or don't even get rid of Facebook. Like, even that $150, do you really need it? Just go to your friend's house who's got a TV. So, like, my friends' circles, right? My friends are starting to buy boats, right? Yeah. And I think a boat is the biggest waste of money ever.
I think they were like a huge investment or something.
They're like $200,000, $300,000, right? Yeah. And that's cool. My mates can have them, and when they go out, I'll just come along and give $100 for gas or whatever. I'm not going to spend $300,000 on a boat, and like just to keep up with them, or have one in my driveway. I'd rather buy another house that's going to give me future income, right? Yes. I like my goal is I want to put my money into investments, so one day I don't have to physically show up and work. The investments just pay me enough money to go do what I like to do, right? And that's the options that we're trying to get.
Shucks.
Thank you so much, honestly.
I do have one more question, just because I know that our Pasifika community are probably curious. Yeah. And let's just use, so if you're earning from approximately around 60 to 80K a year and you're a young family of 3, for example, just
3 adults or like 2, mum and dad and a kid? Mum
and dad and 3 children. We'll just, just to...
So that's not a family of 3, yeah.
A family of 5.
Okay.
2, mum and dad, 3 children. Yeah. Very young. I know that with our banks, they are cautious when it comes to young families providing, finance. Just an approximate, like a 5-year plan. We'll just go for a 5-year plan. Approximately how much would you suggest that our families save? A week?
Yeah.
And that's if mum and dad are earning approximately around 60 to 80K.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So let's say mum earns 80 and dad earns 60. Back in the day we used to always say it's the other way, but these days,
it's changed.
Yeah. So mum earns 80, dad earns 60. So that's $140,000 a year, right? Yeah. We say the kids are at primary school age.
Primary school.
Yeah, okay, because that's actually easier because you don't have all the childcare and all that sort of cost, which is really expensive. It's actually cheaper when they go to primary school.
Yes, it is.
Or that's when you lean on grandma to look after kids rather than paying for it if you can, especially if, grandma and granddad aren't working. They become good babysitters. So, use that if you can. But okay, so they make $140,000 a year. That's over a couple $1,000 a week after tax they're getting paid. So let's say they're getting paid $2,000. Yeah. Which is good. And just double check me on that. I don't earn 140 grand, so I don't know how much that is exactly after tax per week. Does anyone know? Can we work that out? Go to paye.net and tells you. But let's say, I know if you make 100 grand a year, it's about $1,600 a week after tax. So let's say this family makes $2,000 a week. All right. The old rule of thumb, and this is what
1940.
1940 was pretty good. 1940. Okay, let's make it 2,000 just so my numbers are easy. But the old rule of thumb was always try and live off one income, right? And save one. So whoever it is, so let's say the mum makes 80. All right, let's live off the 80K, but we save dad 60. Right, and 60K after tax is going to be about $1,000.
Oh my gosh, that's one thing I got right.
Yeah. Okay, but what that also generally does is that means that if you have another kid, you can still survive off one income for a little while while the kid's young and stuff like that. So if they're earning $2,000 a week, right, my goal would be saving $1,000 a week. And I would be going, all right, can we feed? Because $600 of that's going to rent, right? So you've got $400 a week.
For food and petrol.
For food, petrol, groceries, everything.
Yeah.
So maybe you need $500 a week, right? You know, but you don't want to go and spend $350, $400 on crap. You don't want to take the kids out for $100 for, you know, even going to like I went to Burger Fuel the other day.
That's so expensive.
Me and my son. It's like almost $50.
Yeah.
I was like,
Just for your
I'm
combo.
like, he doesn't even eat much. Like, you know, like, what is this? But that's huge amount of money. When
Yeah.
you could eat at home. And it costs $20, you know? So you got to, but that's the thing. Do you want to go to Burger Fuel all the time? Or do you want to own a home? Right? And yes, this family, because they have good incomes, $2,000 a week is good money. They could save $200 a week. But $200 a week, it's going to take a long time to get there. But if you're showing you can save $800 to $1,000 a week, right, and just put it in that other bank account, you can't see as soon as one of them gets paid, it goes straight in that bank account. Then suddenly at the end of the year, guess what? You've got $40,000 or $50,000. This is after their KiwiSavers have come out. So if they've been in KiwiSaver for 5 years, right, they're probably going to have $20,000, $30,000 or $40,000 each in their KiwiSaver. So this family, within 5 years of being in KiwiSaver, probably has $20,000 to $30,000 each. So let's say $50,000 KiwiSaver. 5 years, and even if they just save $500 a week, $25,000 a year, 5 years they've got $125,000.
Yeah.
So what's that? 125 plus 50, $175,000, right? We got them in a house 2 years ago, not 5 years, you know. But that's the thing, and they only earn 60 to 80K. But definitely having two people in a house working makes it so much easier. I've always been jealous of my friends who have wives who earn really good money because it makes life way easier. So I mean, it's always a nice idea to have one family member at home, but not in New Zealand, not on our wages, and not how expensive Auckland is. It's just it's a dream that doesn't exist anymore. So encourage your girlfriend to get a good job because that's what you want, right?
For sure.
So a family like that, you can make it. It's not that hard. But KiwiSaver is that savings that's happening in the background, so that's really good. And then it's just transferring that $500 a week into a savings account for a couple of years. Do not touch it.
Would you recommend
just pretend it's not yours?
Yeah.
I'd love to give you some money, but I've checked my account after all the money's gone that I've put into my savings, and I've got zero. Sorry, can't help you.
Yeah. Staying back to the example of the couple and the kids, and you say they should save $1,000 a week.
Yeah, maybe I'm pretty stingy, so but that's why I changed it to $500 a week. But
Okay,
I would
$500
save $1,000 a week.
Yeah.
Because like my son doesn't cost us any. He doesn't eat much food. Like, the only expensive thing about having a son was that my partner didn't work. I was losing her income. But as soon as she was back to work, kids aren't that expensive.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't wear Air Jordans or fancy designer clothes. He's 4.
Guilty.
He can't tell what clothes he wears.
Yeah.
But he lives in a very, very nice house.
Yeah.
And if I die, he's sorted, right?
Yep.
And I think he's going to thank me later on when he goes, "Oh, thanks, Dad. I went to a good school, got to go on like all the school trips, and isn't like, oh man, I looked good when I was 4, wearing those $100 shoes or whatever."
Yeah.
No, he buys secondhand clothes.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't care. He's a boy. He's 4. He's going to get muddy and crap in it anyway.
Yeah,
Like,
I think from what you're saying, it just requires a lot of discipline. But thank you so much, Simon. I feel like this should be a continuous financial advising thingy.
I think
the advice that you've given us has been so helpful.
Yeah.
And really puts it into perspective of how we should be living our lives. And it's more than just saving. It's what we eat, what we're buying. It's who we are.
Yeah, and
deep,
and it doesn't mean you don't have to stop being a nice person or a good person. Give your time to people rather than your money. And if you get yourself into a really good financial situation, then you can actually help your friends and family a lot more, right? So the short term, hey, maybe I can't help. I'm sorry. We're saving for that goal. We want to be in a family home by Christmas next year. I wish I could help. But 5 years, 10 years later, you might be able to go, you know what? I can really help you now.
Yeah.
And that's actually a powerful thing. So look for the sort of long-term, take a long-term approach to it. And it's possible. That's the main thing. So can I say where to find me and all that sort of stuff?
So that's literally what I was going to ask next. So just to that camera there.
Oh, yeah.
Last words and where people can sign up.
So first thing is you want to get your KiwiSaver sorted. So go to aurora.co.nz and hit up the contact form. So what we will do is we'll give you advice around what's the right KiwiSaver for you. So it's it's about a 10 to 15 minute chat with one of our advisors. they'll give you a call. It's all done digitally. It doesn't cost you anything, so don't worry about that. They're all super friendly. They're all really nice. And they'll start talking to you about, getting your KiwiSaver sorted. And then from there, we start looking at how do we get you into your first home. And that's when our mortgage advisors can reach out. And so, just get in touch. Aurora.co.nz is the easiest way. Otherwise, I think we're on Instagram. So go to our Instagram and just DM us there. I'm Simon, so I'm on Instagram as well. You can hit me up. I'm pretty happy to help you out. So just go to our website, look after us, look out for us. And hopefully we can help you get into your first homes. And, massive shout out and thanks to you guys for bringing me in here. So hopefully, I think we should set a bit of a target maybe. Can we get 10 people from the show into homes next year? Maybe more, 50 people. I don't know how many people are listening today, but if you've got a job, you're working hard and you want to get into a first home, we can make it happen. But don't tell me it's a priority. Show me it's a priority, right? So when we ask how much money you got, even if it's $5,000, $2,000, it's a start, right? And with a start, we can continue that and grow from that. And then, we're happy to help you along the way and get more Pasifika people into homes. That would be really good. And let's be the generation that changes that, right? That would be really cool. So, thank you so much for having me here today.
Man, it's been awesome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Awesome.